Inside the Magic, show number 494 for September 21st, 2014. It is Sunday, September 21st, 2014. This is show 494 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I am your host, Ricky Briganti, with a whole lot of fun from the world of Disney and beyond. This week, before I get into all of it, I do invite you to visit our website, InsideTheMagic.net. There you will find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news articles, and plenty more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, or anything at all that you want to send in, you can do so by emailing me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. You can splash into magical fall rates with the Disney Cruise Line. It's all the magic of summer at a much lower rate. You're going to want to contact Magical Travel about a 7-night Eastern or Western Caribbean cruise from Port Canaveral as soon as you can by calling 866-207-8387, or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And when you do that, be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive a free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And thanks very much to Susan Shinkai for your donation this week, and to all contributors to Inside the Magic. I thank each and every one of you. And now, let's get started with our trip around the world. It's been a wild week, certainly in the world of theme parks, not so much in the world of news. I mean, there's definitely been some interesting news, and we'll run through that here, but for me, personally, it is my favorite week of the year, one of at least. It was the debut week for Halloween Horror Nights out at Universal Orlando. Going to be talking about that a little later in the show, so we'll just table that for the moment to talk about Disney here. First up, a announcement/news that came out within the last few days. More changes going on over at Disney's Hollywood Studios seems to indicate grand things are on the way. The Backlot Tour that's been in the park for many years is going to be closing very, very soon, within a week, in fact. It's September 27th, I think, is its last day in the park. And what's going to be replacing that whole area? I have no idea. Nobody knows. We're all hoping it's Star Wars Land, but who knows? Could be Frozen Land for all we know. But something's coming because they're going to be closing that. And, you know, the Backlot Tour really hasn't been much of anything terribly interesting for quite a while since Lights Motors Action entered that park. Of course, many fans would also call for Lights Motors Action to go away if it meant something awesome moving in. So, I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see what that is to come. But if you're a big fan of Catastrophe Canyon, perhaps, you're going to want to rush out and see it ASAP before it goes away forever. Now let's jump coast from Walt Disney World over to Disneyland, where I have a little bit of an update on something at Downtown Disney. Anna and Elsa's Boutique, speaking of Frozen, is going to open at Downtown Disney October 6th. It was previously said that it was going to open a little sooner. Well, October 6th is the date. The Studio Disney 365 location is closing right away, September 22nd, so too late to see that if you care. The Anna and Elsa's Boutique will be coming very soon, and that will surely be popular. Now, I did mention I'd be talking about Universal Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights later in the show, and I will certainly be doing that, but I should also mention that it was also the debut week for Horror Nights in California, and I had sent reporter Jeff there to cover that, so you can head over to our website to see some really fun video and lots of photos and a full write-up on that event. I'm going to be out in California mid-October or so to take in that event, as well as Mickey's Halloween Party at Disneyland, and a whole lot of other Halloween fun that I will be covering for the site. So, expect a full report, sort of house-by-house review sort of thing coming up later. But for now, you can kind of get an overview of the whole event along with this just crazy opening ceremony that they did with people running and screaming, and you just have to go see it. It's a wild video. And speaking of wild experiences, and as Halloween season gets here, I mean, it is here now in the world of theme parks for sure. Knott's Berry Farm being turned into Knott's Scary Farm. That's going to debut in just a few days. And just a few days ago, they held their annual Scare School, in which they teach all of their actors how to scare, essentially get them acquainted with their new roles. And I had someone there covering that as well. Mark was there and wrote a great article about how all of that comes together. It's really interesting. Even if you're not really into the Halloween thing so much, it's interesting to kind of read the behind the scenes of it. You know, what goes into the costuming and the makeup and the acting and all of that. That can really apply to many things, not just Halloween. So you can head over to our website to read that one as well. Back to the world of Disney now, where it was announced recently that a Frozen wedding dress, an official Frozen wedding dress, is on the way from designer Alfred Angelo, and it seems that is going to be revealed up in New York on October 8th, so a couple of weeks away. Everyone will see what this Elsa-inspired sparkly dress will look like. Now related to the world of movies, X Prize has joined forces with Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures to launch a nationwide video contest inspired by Big Hero 6, the upcoming movie that's hitting theaters, animated movie hitting theaters November 7th. The Big Hero 6 X Prize Challenge is inviting young people from 8 to 17 years old to use their creative powers and innovation to use science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics in a sort of a competition in which the winners, 6 winners, will go to Los Angeles for the red carpet Hollywood premiere event for Big Hero 6. The exact details of what types of things that will be entered and how you can enter and all of that can be found by searching for X Prize Big Hero 6 online. The contest is already open and runs through October 12th, so you have some time to figure out exactly what you want to do for it if you are falling in that range. And as I said, not a huge amount of news this week. That actually is already at the end here, though I will mention, certainly once again, I've been working really hard on the Radley Haunted House down in St. Petersburg, not too far from Tampa, not terribly far from Orlando. Been driving back and forth between that and working on a lot of special effects and everything from here, from home as well. And this week we released a whole lot of really fun teasers, kind of a first look inside a lot of it. You can find that on radleyhaunt.com, and while you're there you can subscribe to our new YouTube channel as well, and we've announced the dates, details, location, hours, all of that sort of thing, so hopefully you will come out and see it, because it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Starts October 9th, and that'll do it for your news from around the world this week. This week's tip comes in from Amanda, who writes, the Wishes Fast Pass Plus location at Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom, is slightly to the side of Cinderella Castle, so if you're hoping for a straight-on look, maybe change your Fast Pass and just sit it out. Instead, it mainly affects the viewing of the projected show before the fireworks, though there were times I was sure what I was watching would have looked better in a different location. But the real nice thing about that section is the lawn to sit on, and that Tinkerbell flies directly over you. Amanda, definitely a good tip there. You think, oh yeah, I'm going to book Fast Pass Plus, I'll get the perfect spot for everything. Well, it's not necessarily true. You'll get a spot, you'll get a good spot, but it won't necessarily be your perfect spot. So it's definitely worth researching that a bit and knowing exactly where you're going to end up to make sure that you are where you want to be. And if that's not where you want to be, then yeah, save that Fast Pass for something else. Everybody out there, please email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. Now, I mentioned that I would be talking Halloween this week, but before I get into that, I've got something totally different from that. Something actually really, really exciting. I'm sure you know the name Tom Ameen by now. He's the wonderful musician and pianist who's been providing excellent renditions of Disney songs for us to enjoy for so many years now. He's got a few albums out, and I'm pleased to announce here that Magical Moments 2, The Magic Continues, is Tom Ameen's newest album. It is available now on Amazon and on iTunes. Just search for his name, search for that album title, and you'll find a wonderful assortment of his latest piano renditions of songs like Zippity Doo-Dah, When You Wish Upon a Star, even park songs like Soarin' Over California, the Tiki 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 Room, and even Frozen's Let It Go, naturally, is on there because, sure, why wouldn't it be? But right now, and so as part of this sort of a launch of his new album, I want to share one of the complete songs from it, and it's a really unique one. If I would tell you the name, I will tell you the name of it, Papillon on the Wings of the Butterfly. You might be thinking, what is that? What is that from in the world of Disney? Well, I'm not even going to tell you. I'm just going to play it for you and see if you can sort of recognize and realize exactly what Disney park this comes from. Surely you recognize that from Epcot. It's kind of the Intervention song. You may not have even realized it had that name, but it does, and it is on Tom Ameen's new album. Another great piano rendition of a familiar theme park song, but he's got plenty more on there. So be sure to head over to Amazon.com or head to iTunes and search for Magical Moments 2, The Magic Continues by Tom Ameen. So now I have a request of all of you longtime Inside the Magic listeners out there. You might realize this is show 494. That's quite the number. It also means we're rapidly approaching show 500, which is really, really quite the number. And so, I've been thinking, what can I do that would be special for show 500? And a thought came to mind that you all should tell me what your favorite Inside the Magic moments have been over the past however many years I've been doing this. It's been a long time, and I've certainly got some favorites, but I'm curious to know what you've particularly enjoyed. So if you don't mind, send me an email, ricky@insidethemagic.net, and give it subject line favorite Inside the Magic moment, just so I can keep everything nice and organized. And by doing that, maybe we'll get to relive one or two or three of those moments as we get closer and closer to show 500 here. And I'm actually just sort of genuinely curious what you're thinking back to all these years, what sort of sticks out for you as gosh, I really liked whatever. So yeah, email me, let me know. And show 500 coming up in November, I believe, so not too far away. And now it is time to dive deep into the world of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando. Now, before I do that, you might be thinking, well, Ricky, I know you started this Outside the Magic thing. I thought you were going to put all this crazy Halloween stuff over there. Why aren't you doing a separate podcast? I gave this a lot of thought, honestly, and I do want to do a separate Outside the Magic podcast, and I have been posting a lot of this sort of stuff over on OutsideTheMagic.com, sort of the gorier stuff, the more adult stuff, because, I know that all of the Disney audience doesn't necessarily enjoy this sort of thing nearly as much as I do, and as much as many of you also do. But in this case, this is something where, number one, I'm not going to be talking about anything particularly adult in nature. This is talking about a theme park event, after all, and an all-ages one at that. It's recommended for ages 13 and up, which is still not even that old, 13, teenager. With that said, it is, it's Universal. I feel like I should be able to talk about just about anything that goes on in that park here on Inside the Magic without pushing it over to another podcast. So while I do have big plans this Halloween season to visit all kinds of crazy Halloween experiences and tell you all about them, and a lot of those will certainly not be appropriate to discuss on this show, I do feel like Halloween Horror Nights still has a place here on Inside the Magic. So for those of you who are not a fan of this event, well, I'm sorry. That's probably the end of the episode. Probably a little bit of listener feedback at the end if you want to jump ahead here for a while. But I am going to be talking about Halloween Horror Nights 24, the 24th year of it out here at Universal Orlando here for quite a while. I'm going to try to stay relatively spoiler-free here because I know a lot of you haven't had a chance to experience the event just yet, but I do want to kind of run through the haunted houses and the scare zones and the shows and let you know a few of my thoughts, what I thought was great, what I thought was good, and what I thought was not so good. Fortunately, this year, really great year. It's the event has sort of shifted in recent years. For a long time, it was based on an overall theme to the event, and there was an icon representing everything, and it progressed from there, and everything sort of tied together, and between the different haunted houses and the scare zones, and even the marketing and the advertising, all of it tied together. And a few years ago that became not so much. They decided to go in a different direction with a lot of influence from the way Hollywood, Universal Studios Hollywood has been doing their event. They've decided to go in a direction where they're more focused on intellectual properties, outside ideas, still featuring plenty of original ideas for sure, but focusing more and more on kind of just these individual experiences, like here's something cool and here's something else cool, but they really have nothing to do with each other other than the fact that they're scary. So it's been kind of an interesting transition into that way of doing things because not everything has gelled completely, I think, until this year. I think it really, really works this year because as I'm looking at the 8 haunted houses, new haunted houses that are there this year, my top houses are not the original concepts from Universal like they usually are, which is shocking to me. I'm always go in the direction of, what the talented folks at Universal come up with on their own. And this time, it's the IPs that really have me enthralled, which is great. I think it's wonderful that the event has managed to sort of take that leap into, I mean, it is Universal Studios after all, right? It is, Ride the Movies, and they've had huge properties as rides. I mean, that's pretty much all of their rides are based on movies, and they've had that for years and years and years and years. So why would Halloween Horror Nights be any different? Take the biggest names and give them full justice in these walkthrough scary experiences, and make it like a theme park attraction, but in a haunted house rather than just a haunted house. And that's what Universal can really do. And this year, they have really shown that, because the top house for me, Alien versus Predator. These are two massive franchises that I've been watching my entire life. Honestly, Predator, I can credit as kind of what got me into all of this. I watched Predator when I was probably way too young to be watching it. It's an R-rated movie. Lots of gore in this movie. It's scary. It's sci-fi horror, and I watched it when I was very, very young. Elementary school, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. I just found it fascinating and just fun. So that and Alien, certainly, I've been watching for many, many years, as have sort of see, and Alien's part of the Great Movie Ride at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Always loved that scene. But this is the ultimate sort of immersive experience into both of those. It's Alien versus Predator, but not necessarily based on that exact movie or franchise. It's kind of Alien and Predator. I mean, there's certainly elements of that, but it's just a fun, thrilling experience. This is an intense haunted house. It really, really feels like what I was saying. It's a theme park attraction mixed with a haunted house. So you've got the immersiveness, and let's say you took away all the scares and you just walked through the environments, it would feel like an awesome queue or even walkthrough attraction. That they would set up if there was an Alien versus Predator ride, let's say. But minus the ride, you're on foot instead, and things are jumping out at you and screaming at you and getting all in your face, and that's what makes it, a haunted house. So it's a really interesting mix of experiences, and I think it is hugely successful, and I have a feeling it'll even get better and better in the coming weeks. This is definitely the one I'm going to be visiting the most, because the aliens, when they pop out of these, dark holes, they are these amazing puppets. They're not just a dude in a suit. They are these fantastic puppets that Universal used what they learned from the American Werewolf in London house last year, which they had great werewolf puppets for that they developed for that. They used what they learned from that and bettered it this year. Better puppets with more animations, more fluid motion. They look incredibly lifelike, and they're coming in your face. There's strobe lights going on. You hear them snarling. The little mouth inside the bigger mouth is moving out at you, and it's just crazy intensity. And then on top of that, there's predators as well, and all kinds of other things going on. It is just a really, really fun experience. I should mention here that opening night, press night, all the reporters from the world were there, and Universal this year did something I don't think they've done before. They allowed a recording inside the haunted houses. Now, the one stipulation was I was only allowed to release 2 of the 8 haunted houses. My choice, but only 2. So I have a video, of course, of my top 2, the first being Alien versus Predator, up on our YouTube channel. And it's kind of a highlights version. They didn't want me to ruin the whole experience, but you can see a good chunk of it and really see what it's all about. So definitely check that out. If you're too scared to go there yourself, you can see what it's all about and see what a walkthrough. I mean, I consider this to be a walkthrough Alien versus Predator attraction, not so much a haunted house. And that's what makes it just really, really cool. So there's that. My number 2 house, very different, but also excellent. It's Halloween, like the classic 1978 John Carpenter film Halloween, Michael Myers' Halloween. 24 years of Halloween Horror Nights, they've never done a classic Halloween experience somehow. I'm not really sure why it took so long, but it's here, and it's phenomenally faithful to the movie. It goes through kind of scene by scene, linear narrative of exactly what happens in the film, but, it's a haunted house, so they twist it, and Michael Myers comes after you instead of just attacking his own victims, which, of course, he does as well. You see a lot of the famous killings from the film, reenacted in front of you in the haunted house, but then he, tilts his head and comes after you. So, It's really, really faithful. Feels like you're stepping into the 70s. You hear the music, you hear the score, you hear the sounds, you see the iconic moments right in front of you. The house is there with some great projection effects on it outside, which is fun. And it's just it's like American Werewolf in London was last year, where it's just very faithful, feels just right. So I really enjoyed that. You can see video of that over on our YouTube channel as well, and unfortunately it's the only 2 that I'm allowed to put out. I really wish I could share all of them, because they're, largely it's all good stuff this year, and maybe hopefully after the event is over they'll say, yeah, now you can put up the rest. We'll see. So number 3, continuing on from there, and actually I should mention also that this weekend I did the Unmasking the Horror tours, as I have for several years in a row now. And that allowed me to walk through 6 of the haunted houses during the day, no scares, with the lights on, and take as many pictures as I wanted. And Can be putting those up little by little throughout this week as well. So for those of you who want to see what it looks like, but without the scary stuff, you can look at that, and don't just look at the pictures and say, yeah, I've seen it now, I don't need to see it in person. No, that's not true, because the pictures won't even do all of it justice by any means. If you want to avoid the scares but still see all of the great artistry that goes into these haunted houses, which you should, book one of these or both of these Unmasking the Horror tours, because it gives you an opportunity to look around and not worry about ever being scared by anything, but you can see the alien puppets in person. You can take a picture with them. You can see how they operate, sort of the technology behind all of it, and how everything comes together. It's really wonderful, especially this year with that house. Worth the price of admission right there, just to see everything that went into that particular experience. So there's my little plug, I guess you could call it, for the Unmasking the Horror tour, something that I gladly pay for every year. Anyway, so continuing on, my number 3 house this year, The Walking Dead, End of the Line. Believe it or not, that's my number 3, because this is the 3rd year of The Walking Dead at the event, and it's unusual, incredibly unusual for Universal to repeat anything. And to do The Walking Dead 3 years in a row, everybody kind of went, oh, not again. But they really did it right this time. The maze is huge. It's huge. It's huge. It takes up an entire soundstage that they don't even normally use for the event. And it's twice as big. It's as any other haunted house they've ever done. That means twice as many actors. The sets are twice as big. The rooms are huge. You wind through an entire supermarket, like a life-size supermarket, for instance. In fact, the haunted house is so big it actually spills out of the soundstage. It couldn't even be contained fully within, which is pretty astounding. There's, not to give too much away, but there's a scene that they call the Storm Horde scene. If you've seen season 4, you probably know what it refers to. Imagine yourself trapped in a dark forest as a thunder and lightning storm is rolling through, and it's causing all of the walkers, the zombies, to come after you in a giant horde from all sides. And that happens. And it's flashing and strobing, and they're everywhere. You are surrounded by them. It's not like the past couple of years where it's like, yeah, there's a zombie and there's another one. No, this is like, oh, there's like 20 zombies. It's finally really doing justice to The Walking Dead, the phenomenon that it is, with millions and millions. It's like an average of 13 million people watch the show every week. So certainly understandable why it's part of the event, and they really, really did a great job with it this year. I'm happy they had the chance to fully do it, and hopefully it's the last year of it. But it is great for what it is this year. I quite enjoyed it. Now here's one that's a bit of a surprise, and actually I've kind of moved around my rankings a little bit here and there, because originally I had one house at number 4, and then I moved to a different one, and I don't know. I'm kind of figuring out where I stand still, because the more I go through, the more it's changing. So it's kind of a toss-up here between From Dusk Till Dawn and Dollhouse of the Damned. I think I'm officially going with Dollhouse of the Damned for number 4 and From Dusk Till Dawn number 5, but that could change. So let's talk about Dollhouse of the Damned for a second. Evil dolls. Dolls in general, kind of creepy. They're staring at you and never blink and that sort of thing. But evil, dolls, kind of been done before. It's kind of a Halloween cliche. Fortunately, this house is very different. It's creepy, beyond creepy. It's the kind of creepy that you're just like, ugh, get me out of here. It's not necessarily, hugely scary. You're not going to scream and jump and run. You're just going to kind of get creeped out the whole time, and when you leave, you're going to be like, what was that? There's smells. A baby powder and stuff, and like weird creepy babies and dolls everywhere, and then it gets just really demented by the end with this sort of like creepy underworld doll thing. I don't know. I honestly can't even really follow the story because it's just kind of like, whoa, what is going on here the whole time? So it's very unique, and I think I'm going to enjoy it more and more the more times I walk through it in the coming week. So a particularly unique one there. The outside, the facade of it is phenomenal as well. Sort of this evil house looking thing with a lot of bright colors and, you know, beheaded dolls and that sort of thing. So, and then I mentioned From Dusk Till Dawn, so kind of a toss-up here. Now, this is based on the El Rey channel TV series. You probably have never even heard of that channel, but it's a TV series From Dusk Till Dawn. You probably know the Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino movie better from many years ago. Well, the TV show kind of mirrors the movie, so it doesn't really matter if this haunted house is based on one versus the other. As long as you've seen something, you'll get it. And essentially, the haunted house is set inside the, we'll put this gently, the nightclub, we'll say, called The Twister. If you've seen the movie or the TV show, you will know what it really is. And as you enter this haunted house, the first thing you see is the exterior of The Twister. And there is this Barker, live mic'd real actor Barker, spouting off. He can't say all the things that Cheech Marin said in the film because they were incredibly obscene, but he's pretty risque when it comes to theme parks and what he's insinuating and saying and motioning, and it's one of those certainly very adult moments for Halloween Horror Nights. And then as you step inside, that theme kind of continues because, as you said, as I said, you know, you're going into a nightclub, a nightclub intended for adults, and there are many women certainly in this club, and you're kind of stepping into the back rooms, and things are going on in those back rooms. And fortunately, well, it's a horror thing, right? So it's not just a sort of backroom nightclub action. They turn around, and these quite scantily clad women, surprisingly so, turn around and scare you. They're vampire snake creatures, and they, you know, growl and hiss and snarl at you, and it's some good scares. You know, you don't expect it when you're being drawn in by the lovely, we'll call it, visuals. Then all of a sudden it turns crazy scary. It's a good combination there, and it just gets weirder and weirder as you go through sort of, you know, a temple and ultimately into the grand finale scene, which is great. You know, overall, it turned into a really excellent haunted house experience. It's something you might not expect to be great, but it really quite works. If you haven't seen the movie or the TV show, you might be totally confused as to what you're going on, but you know, you'll still be quite entertained. So it's one that I'll continue to visit again and again for sure. I enjoyed it. Now, here's Giggles and Gore, Inc. Evil clowns. Much like evil dolls, evil clowns have been done over and over and over. It's definitely a Halloween cliche at this point. Fortunately, and this is one of the original ideas this year, along with Dollhouse of the Damned was. Giggles and Gore is a different take on evil clowns in that Universal was curious, you know, where do evil clowns come from? You know, where, there's all these evil clowns running around. Where do they all originate? Well, apparently they're just regular people that have been turned into evil clowns by way of kind of an evil clown factory, if you will, which is an interesting concept that proves to be both entertaining and amusing and creative and just kind of downright crazy at many times. It starts in the very first scene. It's clear that this is no ordinary evil clown experience because the first thing that you see is somebody sort of in the initial stages of becoming an evil clown, and there's kind of this Clockwork Orange moment of somebody's eyes being held open, forced to watch Woody Woodpecker cartoons projected into their eyes. You can imagine after watching that for quite some time, you might start to go a little bit insane. So that is that is the beginnings of becoming an evil clown, apparently, is staring straight into a projector that's playing Woody Woodpecker. Interesting. So from there, it kind of gets crazier. There's some kind of standard evil clown moments, and then there's some not so standard ones, and then ultimately it turns really dark by the end of it, which is different than sort of the usual happy evil clown. So it's fun. Definitely not one of my favorites, but it is a fun experience. Now, after this is where things kind of go downhill a little bit. Everything can't be perfect every year in Horror Nights, and the next one, Roanoke Cannibal Colony, another one of the original ideas this year. A great idea on paper. Loved the concept of sort of this history-based experience that is trying to explain what happened to this kind of lost colony of America by saying that they ended up becoming cannibals. Sounds fun and horrific, as it should be for Halloween Horror Nights, but ultimately what happens is just a really, really gory maze, but that's about it. It's a little repetitive, especially after, you see one crazy gory scene after another, and at some point you're just like, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. And then they throw this, Native American Wendigo spirit thing in, and it just kind of gets a little bit confusing. So, not my favorite. I mean, it's good. It's all right, but I won't, I'm not going to go crazy about it. It's just kind of there. But then there's Dracula Untold, Reign of Blood. This is kind of a sneak peek, a promotional haunted house for the upcoming film that's coming out October 10th, and it shows that there really isn't much going on here because the haunted house is not very good. The sets are great, this great sort of crumbling castle thing, but other than that, it's not scary, it's not interesting, it's not particularly entertaining, it just is kind of there. So can't see myself doing this one too many times other than to check in every once in a while and see if it has somehow gotten better. I don't really think it's Universal's fault, the creative folks, so much as the fact that this movie really doesn't lend itself to Halloween Horror Nights very well, and so it's just a really weird choice. I mean, it's a synergy type of move. I'm sure it was handed down from corporate Universal saying, yeah, you got to do this to promote our movie, and they probably went, So they did it, and they probably did their best, but it's just not particularly good, unfortunately. So there are the haunted houses. Of course, I'll have lots of photos and videos and more thoughts over on the website. Let's move into the scare zones now, which scare zones are back. That's a great thing. For the last couple of years, they've been playing with the street experiences, kind of did roaming hordes of people one year, and then all Walking Dead last year, which was so this year scare zones are back, thankfully, and there's 4 of them, and they're pretty good. The Purge is definitely the best one. It's taking over a huge area of the park, the whole New York area, all the way from Twister to Transformers and all the streets in between, and it is just utter chaos. If you know the Purge, the couple of movies that are out, and more specifically The Purge Anarchy, the more recent one, which was far better than the original. It's the premise is that all crime is legal for 12 hours on one purge evening each year, to allow everybody to purge all of that frustration or whatever out of them. So, of course, you're there at Halloween Horror Nights right as the purge is beginning. You hear the sirens, you hear the commencement notice, and the purge begins. In fact, at the beginning of Halloween Horror Nights every night, a few minutes before the gate opens, out in the front, that is the official commencement of the purge. They do a little sort of opening moment, and then you're greeted by purge characters trying to kill you as you're going in, which is a fun little opening. But once you get into the scare zone throughout the night, it is just sort of crazy masked people with weapons coming after you nonstop and creating screams left and right. It is definitely effective at making people scream and run. The characters are not the scariest just by looking at them, but they are high energy, intense, and definitely do a great job at what they're supposed to do, and that's scary. So there's that. Also in that area, every once in a while, there's a auction of people. This is kind of part of the Purge Anarchy if you've seen it, and they hold an auction in which some unlucky participants are auctioned off to the highest bidder to get purged. So there's that. My next favorite scare zone this year is Face Off in the Flesh. I'm a big fan of Face Off, the sci-fi show, and this is kind of taking a best of look at seasons of Face Off and bringing many of those creatures, those characters, to life in the park for essentially photo ops. They're up on these little platforms and they rotate throughout the night, and you can see a whole bunch of familiar characters from the show Face Off that have been created there in the park, which is pretty cool. They look great. They're not perfect prosthetics as they use on the show because they have to use these kind of masks over and over and over throughout the whole experience, but they look really good. I mean, there are definitely prosthetics used. They've done a good job translating the makeup into sort of the theme park experience. Now, while you're posing for pictures with that or just staring at them, there are characters in the streets trying to scare you as well, but the distractions are so strong that you almost don't even care about all the other characters. You just want to look at the cool Face Off characters. So it's not really so much a scare zone as a street experience, but a really enjoyable one. Now, I had a chance to actually interview on opening night Laura Tyler, who was a winner of one of the seasons of Face Off, and she recently returned for the Judges episode as well, and she's been a Horror Nights artist since she was like 17 years old. So if you head over to our YouTube channel or website, look for the Face Off a video of this scare zone, then you'll see a few words from her talking about how cool it was to have her stuff translated from Face Off to the theme park where she essentially started. Next, Scare Zone, Bayou of Blood. This one I think is going to get better and better as the weeks go on. It's a voodoo, New Orleans-y kind of Scare Zone. Has a voodoo queen and a lot of her minions and kind of a Dr. Facilier-looking guy. And hourly, they do human sacrifices in a pretty big, intense show set in this shack that's sort of been built here for Horror Nights. Pretty elaborate. There's kind of two areas of this Scare Zone. There's the shack area that's well lit, and then there's this much darker tree area nearby that there's a lot of characters kind of hiding in the shadows. So as I said, I think this is going to get better and better in the coming weeks as they kind of figure out exactly what all the characters are supposed to be doing and how they best scare people. But at the very least, these human sacrifice shows are kind of crazy, gory, intense, fun little moments that happen there. And you, of course, can see video of all of that on our YouTube channel as well. I do have to say a big thank you to John, a.k.a. Big Fat Panda, for sending the video of the human sacrifice. Actually, I haven't seen it for myself yet because it did not happen Friday night, opening night, because of the rain. It rained almost pretty much the entire night, as it tends to do on opening night for Horror Nights. Happens just about every year. So anyway, you can see, bigfatpanda.com. If you've never been there, definitely go check his site out. He's got some great Disney theme park videos that he produces, so go check that out. Lastly, last Scare Zone this year, Masquerade Unstitched. And this is basically a ball, a classic a ball, waltzy dance sort of thing happening in the middle of the street, big chandelier overhead, stilt walking people in giant ballroom gowns that are huge, and it all looks very pretty from a distance, but when you get up close you realize they're kind of mutilated a little bit, like their skin is peeling off, so kind of this beautiful horror thing going on. It's actually quite nice. It's not terribly scary, but it is really nice to look at, and it's got some great music going in there too. So that moves us on to this year's shows, and I am so happy to say that Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure is hilarious this year. I don't know the last time I said that, because it's been not so great. I mean, it's been getting better in recent years, but this year they nailed it. There are so many good jokes. There's so many good parodies. It's not just kind of like, hey, let's reference this, let's reference that. It's not just referential humor. It is using characters and using pop culture humor to its fullest. There's certainly a lot of Disney jabs, a lot of Frozen, and it is hilarious. A bit of Magic Band humor as well, and then a lot of non-Disney stuff too. There's this one great running gag that pays off wonderfully in the end that I don't want to ruin either, but great dance numbers. It's just an all-around really solid show this year. It's the first year in a very long time that I'm eager to get back to and see it again, or many times over, because it is wonderful. The other show This year is once again the Rocky Horror Picture Show tribute, and I haven't had a chance to see that this year yet, but I believe it's a lot of the returning cast from last year, and they did a good job last year. If you're a fan of Rocky Horror, then you should enjoy this. I'd like to see another new show in the park, but Rocky Horror is not a bad choice at all. So that is this year's Halloween Horror Nights, the 24th year for 2014. I know they have big plans coming up for 25 next year. They're already working on that. I can't wait to see what's in store. I've heard rumors of maybe some, an icon or two coming back, or maybe a new one. I don't know. We'll see where that goes. But for now, we're certainly focused on this event that just debuted and will be around for another few weeks. And I am definitely going to be heading back as many times as I can to enjoy it while it lasts all the way through November 1st. I recommend you do the same, even if you're not particularly fond of sort of scary experiences. You can easily walk in and get to Alien vs. Predator without getting too scared, because the scare zone that's between the entrance and there is the Masquerade Unstitched, and it's not terribly scary. It's quite nice, and Face Off is nearby as well, so you can check that out. And then go to Alien vs. Predator, because it is an awesome experience. It is a little bit scary, but it is just awesome, and I think any theme park fan would really appreciate what they have done with that haunted house, because it really truly is kind of a classic theme park experience, but heightened to a Horror Nights level. So there's that. Naturally, over on our website, lots more from Halloween Horror Nights, including over the next few days, lots of lights on tour photos from throughout 6 of those haunted houses. The not included are Giggles and Gore and Dracula Untold, but the rest of them you'll be able to see photos from within those. And then, as I said, I've got a couple of haunted house videos, lots of Scare Zone videos all over our YouTube channel, just endless amounts of Halloween entertainment, and it's still September. Yes, I realize that, but I'm pretty excited because I've got so many Halloween events that I'm going to be attending in the next few weeks. And just to kind of bring this all back together, yes, Outside the Magic, definitely a thing. I am not going to be cluttering up Inside the Magic with endless Halloween, kind of focusing only on the theme park stuff. So certainly Mickey's Halloween Party from Disneyland once I get out there. Knott's Berry Farm, I'm going to be going there, and I'll be posting that on Inside the Magic. But really everything else that's not theme park related is going to happen, especially the more adult geared stuff you'll find over on OutsideTheMagic.com, and then I'll be littering in some Outside the Magic podcasts at some point as well. I haven't really figured out how that's going to work yet, if it's going to be a separate feed, or I'm probably just going to kind of include them in this regular Inside the Magic feed, but I'll clearly mark them to be something different, and I'll throw a disclaimer up in the front so you can skip them if you're not interested. But yeah, that's still a little while away, so hopefully you enjoyed sort of my overview of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando for 2014.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
All right, here, let's jump into some listener feedback, and keeping the topic of Halloween alive here for a moment. The first email actually relates to that, and unfortunately I didn't copy-paste the person's name for this email, so I do apologize, whoever you are, but you identify yourself as an avid listener of the podcast. I'll have to pull up your name here in a minute as I read this. So anyway, before that, let's read the email saying... As an avid listener of your podcast and a theme park fan, your shows have given me a confessed chicken and interest in Halloween attractions, specifically Halloween Horror Nights. Going back through its history has been interesting, and it got me wondering, what are your favorite past moments from Halloween Horror Nights? Amazing scare zones, icons, themes, everything. I'm interested in finding out so I can enjoy it from the safety of my home. Well, thanks very much for that email, person who I don't have your name right away, but I will shortly. That's a tough question, because I've been going to Halloween Horror Nights since year 4 or 5. I always forget exactly which year I started, and it was like 95 95, 96, something like that. And I went for a few years, and then I took a long time off because of life, because I didn't live here. You know, I was around, went to college and all of that. And then I came back here, and really starting 2007 is when I started going every single year again. And I have been for the last, I guess that would make this 8 years in a row. I've certainly seen a lot. As far as favorite moments, that first year that I returned, I really loved that year, 2007, for many reasons. It was a great icon year. You know, it was Jack the Clown was there, and I had remembered him from years and years prior when I was there as well. He had the great Carnival of Carnage show that he did. Great opening night moment where they brought together the New Line Cinema properties of Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface, which I am a huge Freddy Krueger fan. So I loved seeing that. The original sort of Nightmare on Elm Street haunted house that was there. So that year was definitely a favorite of mine. Jumping back for many years prior again with Jack the Clown, I loved the one year where they had Jack inside attractions. I don't know if that was the only year they ever did that, but it was great because I remember riding in Jaws. Yes, the Jaws ride that doesn't exist anymore. And you went into the boathouse and the boat stopped, and then a light came on, and Jack was over in the corner of the boathouse with a super soaker, and he started squirting everybody, which was great. You went into Earthquake, and you went into the earthquake scene, but rather than the scene playing out as it normally does, Jack was there, and he gave a little sort of a spiel as to, ha ha ha, you're all doomed, whatever, and he essentially caused the earthquake to happen, and things like that. It was really unique and interesting, and I wish they would do that again. I wish Horror Nights would kind of invade more of the park than just kind of the the haunted houses and the scare zones like it has been. And I found your name. It is AJ. So there you go. Thanks, AJ, for that email. I have many other favorite moments. Scare zones. Oh, gosh, favorite scare zone. I'd have to say the ones that I was in. Universal used to do something called Boo Camp, in which they invited them, reporters to come and be a character for a night, and it was tremendous fun. I was in, I was an infected, sort of oozing, pussing character in a toxic zone. I was a zombie in Zombie Ground. This was before the Walking Dead craziness. I did another one that I can't even remember. So. Those were a lot of fun as well. I can't think off the top of my head a favorite scare zone, but I'm sure there were many. And I'm happy to have them back this year. So thanks very much for that question. Next email comes in from Matthew, chiming in on the topic of Frozen replacing Maelstrom that we talked all about last week. Matthew writes, I've been putting a lot of thought into the Frozen conversation in Norway and have a bit to share. First, on the Frozen special, the producers made it a point to show all of the touring around the country of Norway before drawing the elements for the movie. It is my hope that the Imagineers will take a cue or two from that expedition to include it in any changes that they're going to put in place. Second, I believe in the ability of Disney to put a good story and the right elements together and keep the integrity of much of the Norwegian culture while introducing some of the fun parts of Frozen. I may be wrong, but that is what I'm hoping with the evolution of Maelstrom to a Frozen attraction. Well, Matthew, you've pretty much described what they've said that they're going to do. They're not getting rid of Norway completely, and you're right, they'll certainly want to infuse the Norwegian culture into that Frozen world. I think what everybody's problem is not so much that Frozen is coming. I think everyone realizes Frozen is phenomenal for the Disney company, and it's a huge hit, and many people are fans of it, and they want to see it in the parks. I think it's just the fact that it's going there, and it kind of takes away for what Epcot was designed to be. Not so much fantasy, but reality and representative of those cultures, and that's it. But over the years, that has diluted, and it has become what Epcot is today, which is a very different product. That's not to say it couldn't go back to what it was. I just don't feel like that is going to happen anytime soon. It feels like Epcot is just molding into something new, and everybody can certainly hate that fact and hope, for those who really like classic Epcot, that it is going to go in a different direction someday, but I just don't see it happening when everything is very, very, sort of Disney character focused and not so much these, original theme park concepts anymore. I mean, that's true for just about everywhere. You know, almost everything that's being built around Disney is going the way of, you know, this is based on a movie, this is based on a TV show, this is tie into this. It's, you know, and that's been like that to an extent for the history of Disney theme parks. But those original ideas have always been there. And, you know, you've got like Mystic Manor, which has popped up overseas, and everyone would love to see more of that sort of thing in the United States. But certainly the hot property of the moment seems to be what Disney is most capitalizing on. And that's just going to continue. And now that seems to have made its way into Epcot as well. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely miss, you know, classic Epcot. I loved going there in the good old days of Horizons and World of Motion and all of that. And I miss that experience. You know, I don't feel like Epcot is the same place. And I was a kid. It's not like, you know, you could say, oh, Epcot, you know, kids didn't like it. I mean, I was a kid and I loved it. So you can't generalize like that. So yes, I would like to see more classic Epcot return. You know, so back to your email. Yes, I do believe the Imagineers will retain a lot of the integrity, as you put it, of Norway. But at the same time, Frozen being there kind of automatically, you know, Arendelle doesn't really exist. So that takes away from it a bit. Next email comes in from Amanda, who describes herself as a huge fan of Disney, Halloween, and Inside the Magic. Love that combination. Amanda writes, I am planning on attending Disney World for 2 weeks next year. My goal is to be there during the Halloween celebration period, but not in the last week before Halloween. Need to be home for my own crazy party. What would you recommend someone go in that period of time? The weather is my biggest concern. I love Florida thunderstorms, and I'm fine with the July heat, but if the weather gets more erratic as the year progresses, I'm worried I'll miss a lot as the park goes into lightning mode. Food and Wine Festival would be a bonus. Well, Amanda, I don't think you have to worry too much. As we get further and further away from summer, the weather gets better and less crazy. Technically, you're still in hurricane season in October, but it lessens tremendously, and we haven't had a hurricane for many years, quite a while. It's still raining quite a bit now. It's September, and I'm sure that will continue to some extent, but the big rainstorms generally don't happen that much in October, especially as the month goes on and on. So if you were to go mid to late October, I think you would be just fine. Wouldn't have to worry about the weather at all. I would definitely recommend coming then. I think you'll have a lot of fun. Let's do a couple more emails and then wrap this up. That next email is from Alex, who writes, still a big fan of your channel and the show. Great work. 2 questions. 1, why did you switch to audio only for the weekly podcast? I liked seeing your face when watching the video. And 2, can you inform me on the current status of the Imagination Pavilion? If I remember correctly, it was announced by Disney that the pavilion was closing in January. Well, Alex, number 1, I was way overloaded with the workload. Yes, overloaded with workload. And I just had to make a change somewhere, so the video portion of the show just had to go away. That's not to say it won't come back in some form at some point. I do have some plans, but for now, back to the classic audio only show for the moment. And number 2, Disney never did announce anything about Imagination, that is, at Epcot. It was just a rumor that was going around, and nothing firm ever came out of that. So as far as anyone knows at the moment, Journey into Imagination is staying right where it is. Next email is from Neil, who writes, been a fan of your podcast for 5 years now. Always look forward to your next show, and always up to date on I'm always up to date on everything Disney. I live in the Northeast, and I'm curious what would be an affordable trip to Disney World coming from Connecticut. Would it be cheaper to drive, staying on or off property, any deals like Disney dining? I would want to get the most perks available on an affordable vacation. Would 5 days be enough, or 7? The amount of people that would be going would be 2 adults, 1 child. And my last question is, will they ever have a Disney cruise ship port out of New York or Boston anytime soon? Neil, interesting questions there. Tough to answer your first few. I would definitely, with the price of gas, a drive from up there could be a little pricey, but then again, you're talking about 3 people worth of airfare. I would definitely say driving would be less expensive, but probably not so much that it would be worth the price difference. I mean, that's quite a long drive, especially with a 9-year-old in your car. If you can swing it, I would recommend flying. Driving would take a whole day out of your trip. If you were to fly, you could at least get here and and relax a bit the first day and not, be completely wiped out from that long drive. As far as hotels, certainly less expensive options off property, but they're not going to be necessarily the nicest options. You can certainly hunt around for some deals, find some really good ones, but there's all quite often really good deals on property as well. It just depends on what you're looking for. You can get more for your money off property usually, but then you do need a mode of transportation. A lot of hotels have buses and shuttles and that sort of thing, so it's a little bit less convenient. Maybe you'll rent a car anyway. I don't know. As far as enough days, I don't know what you'll be doing. If it's specifically just Walt Disney World, 5 days I think would be a sufficient trip. 7 would certainly add to it, but you can cover quite a lot in 5 days. I wouldn't necessarily say you need to extend it to 7 just for Walt Disney World. And finally, Disney Cruise Line did sail briefly out of New York. I don't know that it went terribly well. I don't think they're doing it anymore. So I haven't heard anything about Boston, and I haven't heard that they're going to return to New York. They seem to be bouncing around trying to find what is best for them. So hopefully that helps, and that'll do it for your listener feedback this week. In case anybody out there wonders, I mentioned being overloaded with work and all of that, wonders just how much stuff I'm always doing. It is now 4:30 in the morning. I'm recording this podcast. Definitely one of the later episodes. I probably could have waited till tomorrow, but I figured, hey, might as well just get it done now and then go to bed, which I probably won't because I have several more things that I want to do tonight. I don't know. Sleep is overrated, I think. If anyone knows how to not sleep, let me know, because that would be awesome. I could have so much more time if I just didn't sleep. Anyway, I'm rambling clearly at 4:30 in the morning. Hopefully you enjoyed this show, the look at Halloween Horror Nights. Certainly much more of that over on our website and YouTube channel. And in addition to that, don't forget to check out Tom Ameen's new CD, Magical Moments 2. Look it up, Amazon, iTunes, good stuff. It's been wonderful that he's been sharing so many of his songs with us for so long, and it's great to hear that he's been having such great success with his Disney albums, and I'm sure there will be more to come as long as you keep buying them, so keep doing that. As Halloween season approaches, as I mentioned, going to be sharing a bit more on Inside the Magic, as well as a whole lot more than ever before over on Outside the Magic as well. Have a lot of really great opportunities to check out more haunts than ever, going to California, going to Pennsylvania, seeing things I've never seen before, doing some behind-the-scenes stuff, some very special things that I've organized just for Outside the Magic. So if you're a big Halloween fan like I am, you're just definitely going to want to keep checking that out. Make sure you like the Facebook page, and follow the blog and follow us on Twitter, to stay on top of all of that. I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. And, of course, InsideTheMagic.net is our website here. Find us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube by adding /InsideTheMagic to any of those services. And then on the website, stay up to date with everything between episodes of this show. So thanks to all of you for listening each and every week. And as we move into Halloween season here, hopefully you are getting ready, getting your decorations all set. You got a little over a month to figure that out. So have a magical week. Goodbye.
Tomorrow, just a dream away.